Yo, so recently I went to Amsterdam. No, I didn't. No. Bro, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of something else. Recently I went to Stockholm, Sweden. Unexpected trip. I posted a video whilst I was there. Go and watch that one if you haven't seen it already. I did it on my iPhone from the cabin. We're back to a camera now, bro. Why did I decide to go and do a solo travel trip? In the past few years, I've started to travel again. Of course, COVID came and messed up a whole bunch of stuff. A few of my plans, I wanted to go to Japan. We still cry about that from time to time. Now, I'm not a stranger to being by myself when I'm in London, as I am now. I do go to places, restaurants, cinema, and shopping by myself. So I didn't think it would be that difficult for me. And short answer is it wasn't. But also there was this notion in my head that I had that going on a solo trip would open my eyes. I thought that I'd be able to find some sort of self-discovery deep within, maybe find my purpose in life or at least get closer to it. I was there for 5 days and I don't think I did actually get to that point, but I did enjoy myself. And as such, I will do it again and I would recommend it to you guys, but there are a few key learnings that I'd like to pass on to you so that if you do decide to do a solo trip, you have this in the forefront of your mind, not the back front, the forefront. Get me. Number one is cost and pricing and expenses. Now, I did choose a country that is somewhat expensive. You know, it's pretty much the same as London, you know, in terms of how much things cost. And so because of that, what I guess didn't really cross my mind as much is how much you save when you split things when you're traveling with someone else. Specifically, hotels and Ubers or other means of transportation. I stayed at a place that wasn't too expensive. I ended up spending 170 for the location, quite a bit far from the city, which is a point I'm going to get onto in a second. And I had to spend money on transportation as well. Obviously, these costs would be divided in half or more so if I was traveling with other people. Now, this might have not been such a problem if I was going to a cheaper country, but because I was in Stockholm, Sweden, it's not a cheap country by any means. I wasn't shocked by the prices too much because obviously I live in London, but yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. Leading on to my second point is location is very important where you're staying at. I did have to spend quite a bit of money on transport because I was staying outside of the city and I didn't really give much thought as to where I was staying. I was happy with where I chose to stay because it was a nice location. There was a forest, I went for a 2-hour hike, etc. But it did make getting into the city just a little bit harder. The bus that I needed to get only ran hourly, and so there were a few times where I had to take an Uber from my place to a closer station to be able to get into the city, which of course did rack up some of the money. If you don't want to spend money, then of course you need to make sure that you're aware of transportation times. So just something to consider. Next point is one of the best sites to use is Reddit, because I feel like with Reddit you get a broader range of suggestions of things to do in different areas of whichever city that you're visiting. They tend to be more tailored and I guess more authentic than the information that you find on like one of those random travel sites. Next point I would say is use being a tourist to your advantage. It's a bit of a cheeky one, okay, I'm not gonna lie, but you can use being a tourist sometimes to your advantage, which is really weird because a lot of the time tourists are the people that get taken advantage of. Let's say you're going to a museum and they offer different tiered prices or tickets for a train. They could have an option for if you're a student. You can use the excuse of, oh, I'm a student in London, for example, which is what I'd done to go to one of the museums. And they gave me the cheaper option. It's not that much, but in the situation you need to save some money. There are other examples that I can list off, but I'm sure you can use a little bit of knack, a little bit of wit and understand. Just remember, if you're in a situation, remember, hey, could me being from a different country help here? Potentially. Like getting tax-free. If you work retail, you know about tax-free. And the last point I have for you is making sure that you experience certain things for yourselves. Now, I'm not talking about doing dangerous shit that everyone says don't do, necessarily. Like certain areas, people will say, oh, this place is known for this, oh, you're not gonna have a good time here, etc, etc. But sometimes you have to just try things for yourself. Now, I say this not so carelessly because of course you've got to use wisdom. For example, Nico, when he went to the most racist town in America, it turned out not to be the most racist town themselves as a community. It was just because the KKK leader was very close to that town. People might tell you that, oh, if you go to certain parts of Jamaica, it's very bad, etc., etc. But chances are, like, it might not be. It might not be. Just use wisdom when you go to places. Don't be acting a fool. Hey, look, come and rob me. I'm a tourist out on display. That's all I've really got for you, man. I hope to be able to do more solo traveling in the future. And I want to be able to go to a country where I'm able to actually leap out of my comfort zone a lot more, because this felt very similar to London. If you want to see pictures I took and the videos, and of course they're on my Instagram, right on the screen here, obviously. Yeah, and that's it, man. Hope you have a lovely day. As your friend, I've got you. Take it easy.